Welcome back to Blacklit Memory. In today's episode, I'll be sharing 8 unsettling true stories from small towns in West Virginia. Places that seem quiet at first, but hold things most folks won't speak about once the sun goes down. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe and don't forget to like and share. Thank you for being here. Now then, let's begin. I'm Tyler Harbin, 28. I moved to Ash Hollow, West Virginia, to take over my uncle's hardware shop after he passed. Figured it'd be a quiet reset after things burned out for me in Charleston. First morning I woke up here, I heard the siren. It started at exactly 6 o'clock. One long mechanical wail that lasted 11 seconds. No rising pitch. No fancy modulation. Just a steady tone like something from a war movie. I assumed it was leftover infrastructure from the plant that used to sit east of town. Everyone told me the same thing when I asked. That old thing? Just noise. Ignore it. But it didn't sound like something you could ignore. It sounded too deliberate, like it wasn't calling attention. It was acknowledging something. The plant's been closed since the late 80s. Chemical runoff, lawsuits, eventual bankruptcy, the usual rural decay. But the siren never stopped. No one seemed to remember why it even started in the first place. I started asking around during my second week. Folks were polite, but clipped. They'd say things like, "Oh, that's just morning routine," or "You'll get used to it." Some mornings I would walk out and see a few neighbors already moving their trash bins or sweeping porches. Like the siren kicked off their day. Then one morning, it rang for 12 seconds instead of 11, only 1 second longer. But it felt like something caught. A pause in the air. Across the street, a man walking his dog stopped mid-step. His head turned sharply toward my window. I was brushing my teeth when it happened. He didn't wave or nod. Just looked, like he was waiting to see what I would do with that extra second. You don't question routine when it comes from everyone at once. But sometimes I think they weren't used to it either. I think they were still learning to act like they were. I couldn't let it go. I walked up to the plant one morning, right after the siren finished. The place was mostly collapsed. Walls buckled in. Glass long gone. I followed the gravel access road until I found the old siren pole. It looked dead, rusted through at the base. The wires hanging from the box were cut clean, like someone had shut it off on purpose decades ago. It wasn't connected to anything, but it still rang. I started tracking it. Every morning, the tone began at exactly 6 o'clock and 31 seconds, and ended at 6:42. I wrote it down. I filmed it. I checked the timestamps over and over. Same window. Never shifted. Until it did. One morning, the siren cut off 2 seconds early. And almost immediately, I heard screaming. It came from the house 2 doors down. A kid, no older than 6, screaming like something had clawed its way into his room. The kind of sound that hits you square in the chest. The kid's mother ran out and scooped him into her arms. But no one looked confused. No one acted surprised. Just quiet glances through windows. Then back to coffee and morning routines. I brought it up at town hall the next week. I didn't accuse anyone of anything. I just asked, "What's the deal with the siren?" The mayor, a stout man with liver spots and too many keys on his belt, didn't hesitate. "That siren doesn't concern you," he said. "Don't go up there again." That night, my phone recorded the siren without me setting anything. I hadn't touched the camera app. No alarm. No timer. But when I opened my gallery, there it was, a 30-second clip starting at 6:31. At first, I thought it was just wind distortion. But under the main tone, layered just low enough to miss if you weren't listening for it, was another sound. A pulse. Not electrical. Not static. Breathing. I stopped sleeping well after that. Started drinking a little too early in the day. The siren had become the metronome of everything, and I hated how much I was hearing in it now. Patterns, layers, inconsistencies that shouldn't exist if it really was just noise. Then it went off early. It started at 5:57 and ended at 6:08. My clock, my phone, even the wall watch in the shop, all said the same. I rushed to the window, and what I saw I still don't fully understand. 6 people were standing on the sidewalk, evenly spaced, all facing west. Not talking, not moving, just standing like they'd been placed there, like they were waiting for something to pass over. The next morning, I tried to ignore it. I wore earplugs, closed the blinds, turned off the phone. But at exactly 6 o'clock, my lights flickered, and I woke up standing in the hallway. No memory of moving, no sound. Just there, upright, barefoot, heart pounding. The siren still plays, but now it sounds closer. It sounds like it's inside the house. I turned toward the hallway mirror to check myself, and that's when I saw it. I was still in bed, still asleep, or something that looked like me was. I stumbled backward from the mirror and nearly tripped over my own shoes. My chest felt hollow, like something had scooped the air straight out of it. I didn't look back into the glass again. I just grabbed my phone, set it on the counter, and left it recording overnight. The footage made things worse. At 5 hours 59 minutes and 10 seconds, I was asleep in bed. At 5 hours 59 minutes and 19 seconds, still asleep. Then the recording glitched, warped, and for exactly 41 seconds, the frame went empty. When it cleared, I was standing in front of the window, staring outside, unmoving. I watched that clip a dozen times. I still couldn't understand how I had moved without leaving the frame. I began covering every reflective surface in the house with blankets, mirrors, picture frames, the microwave door, anything that could hold even a sliver of reflection. The next morning, the siren didn't go off. That alone should have felt like a relief. But the silence was worse. I stepped onto the porch, expecting to see neighbors confused or cheering or at least talking. But the street was empty. No dogs, no people, not even cars going by. I checked my phone. At 6, the screen was black. Then slowly, so slowly I felt my teeth clench. The blackness faded in to show a picture of my front porch. Except it wasn't live. I was watching myself step out, rubbing my eyes, confused as hell. The feed wasn't synced with reality. It was like the phone had seen a version of me that hadn't happened yet. I slammed the phone screen down on the railing and sat there until the sun crept higher. Something inside me gave out. I knew I couldn't stay here. That afternoon, the mayor came to my door. He didn't knock at first, just stood there. When I opened the door, he cleared his throat and said, "You're too tuned in. It happens. Sometimes." Then he held out an envelope, $8,000. Cash. "Move out," he said. "As soon as possible." I didn't even argue. I just nodded, my throat dry. He walked back down my steps like a man who had closed a deal he didn't want to talk about. I started packing. Boxes, tools, clothes, anything I could carry. That night, I slept on the couch with my shoes on. No siren rang, but I still woke at 6. My porch light was on. My car trunk was open, and the trunk was filled with boxes I hadn't carried out. I stood there barefoot on the porch, breath rising in the cold, staring at my own belongings as if someone had decided I was ready to go. My hands shook as I shut the trunk. Everything felt too fast, too controlled, like the town knew I had one foot out and was nudging the other. At 6 the next morning, the siren returned, but now it wasn't a single tone. It was stacked, multiple pitches layered on each other, vibrating the windows until the frames rattled. My lights flickered. The air shuddered. And behind the siren, behind every tone, there was a deeper sound, almost subconscious, something knocking inside the mirror. I run outside. The town is awake. Everyone is standing along the street, lined in rows, all facing the woods. No one speaks. No one looks at me. They part as I walk through, opening just enough space for me to pass, then closing behind me. At the tree line, the siren pole stands tall, but it's not rusted anymore. It is new. Clean metal, perfect surface. A faint hum vibrates in the ground around its base. I step closer. The metal pulses, once under my palm, scratched into the base. Faint but deep enough to last. Are the words. 41 seconds. Enough to replace you. The siren cuts. The sound collapses into the trees like a breath being held. I didn't wait to see what came next. I left that day. I didn't stop until I crossed 2 state lines. I bought a digital watch at a truck stop just to feel in control of the time again. I set a silent alarm for 6 every morning. I needed to know when that minute passed. Some days, it goes off twice. The first one beeps, the second one hums. And when I don't get up right away, I see my front door open just a little. From the inside. This happened when I was 15, and I haven't said my full name out loud since. I've written it, signed forms, shown ID at airports, but the sound of it, the way it used to feel in my own voice, I haven't trusted that in a long time. That summer, I was sent to stay with my grandmother in Warden's Pass, West Virginia. I had gotten in some trouble back home. Nothing big, just enough for my mom to decide I needed a break from my usual crowd. Warden's Pass had a population of about 600, 1 gas pump, and a single white church that sat crooked on a rise at the edge of town. It had no sign, no bell, and no posted schedule. But somehow everyone knew when to go. Every Thursday at dusk, people would start walking. Quiet, calm. They'd drift toward the church from every corner of town. Families, old couples, a few teenagers who looked like they didn't want to be seen going but still went. Some entered the building. Others just stood nearby. Like proximity counted for something. No one explained it. My cousin Owen was a year older than me. Bored, restless, a little reckless. The kind of kid who liked knowing things just to say he knew them. He watched me staring out the window that first Thursday and said, "You want to know the trick?" I shrugged. He grinned. "Stay behind one night. Wait till the last person goes in. Just listen." The first time I did it, I stood maybe 30 yards from the church. The air was still. The trees didn't move. Even the crickets went quiet when that last person stepped inside. Then, from somewhere near the steps, I heard it. My name. Not shouted. Not even spoken with intent. Just said, as if someone nearby had been thinking about me and accidentally let it slip through their teeth. Except it wasn't quite right. The syllables bent. The vowel caught in the wrong place. Like someone trying to pronounce it through a mouth that didn't fit their face. I knew it wasn't Owen. I knew it wasn't right. But it was my name. And we always answer to our name, don't we? The next Thursday, the town shifted again. Shops closed early. The diner served without speaking. Just little paper notes slid across counters. Even the music in the gas station shut off just before dusk. Owen brought a tape recorder from his dad's garage. The old kind with physical buttons and a red blinking light. We set it up near the path to the church and waited. That night, when the town went still, we didn't stand as close. We let the silence fall. Let the procession pass. Let the door creak shut. The recorder clicked on. When we played it back, there was nothing. Just the soft static of empty air. But then Owen reversed the tape just for the hell of it. That is when I heard it. Let name stay. Let name enter. The voice was wet and distant, like someone speaking underwater through a broken filter. It repeated 3 times. Same cadence. Same mispronunciation. We sat there in my grandmother's backyard, too afraid to look at each other. The following Thursday, I stood near the entrance. No one stopped me. No one acknowledged me. But when the church door opened, every head turned at once. Not to look, just tilted, like birds sensing the same thing at the same time. I peeked inside. No pews. No altar. Just a single candle burning in the center of a wooden floor. A figure knelt beside it, not moving, just humming something that barely resembled the bedtime prayer I used to mumble at 6 years old. Except now the words were wrong. the tune bent in odd places, like it had been passed down too many times and reshaped by mouths that didn't know what the words meant anymore. The next day, I received a postcard. No return address. No stamp. Just slid through the door in the early morning. It was blank on the front. No photo. No scenery. And on the back, in shaky ink, were 3 words. You said yes. The Thursday after that, Owen disappeared. His parents told everyone he had gone to visit cousins out of state. I asked around. No one remembered his name. Not even the teacher at the summer school where we both enrolled. That evening, the church door stood open, before the sun had even touched the hills. I didn't go inside, but the humming had grown louder. That night, I woke up to footsteps on the gravel outside my window, and someone whispering my name again. Closer now. The whisper outside my window didn't fade the way sound should. It clung to the glass like breath, stretching each syllable of my name until it no longer belonged to me. I lay there frozen, trying to convince myself it was the wind. But wind doesn't shape itself around consonants. It doesn't linger after the night is gone still. The next morning, I wrote my name over and over on a sheet of notebook paper. Dozens of times. In block letters, cursive, half cursive. Anything to remind myself how it should feel. I whispered it once under my breath, and the sound wavered in the middle, like the word didn't want to stay whole. By the 50th repetition, something strange happened. The letters started to look wrong, like I had spelled them in the wrong order, even though I hadn't. My tongue felt thick when I tried to say it again. My reflection in the dresser mirror moved its mouth slightly differently than I did, just a fraction off, but enough for me to notice. I asked my grandmother if the church had always been there. She was shucking beans on the porch, her eyes squinting against the light. No, she said. There was a quarry there when I was little. They built the church after the last collapse. She didn't explain what collapse. I didn't ask. Her voice had a softness that warned me away. That night, I followed the Thursday procession again. I kept to the edge of the crowd, head down, listening. No one noticed me. Or maybe they did and pretended otherwise. People walked as if drawn forward by something tugging gently at their ribs. A few broke away near the steps, choosing to stand rather than go inside. Their faces were blank, their breathing slow, like they were waiting for a signal they didn't fully understand. Before the lanterns finished lighting the path, I slipped into the church. It was early, earlier than anyone should have been there. The room felt colder without the bodies in it, the floor stretching like a mouth ready to open. There was no candle, no figure, just an empty space and the faint shape of old wax stains on the boards. My chest tightened. I said my name, sharply, as if cutting it loose again. For a moment, it felt right, clean, like remembering a part of myself I had let drift too far. Then someone answered. A voice behind me says it, low. Too late. You already answered it once. I turned fast. No one stood there, but the air felt full, like someone had just stepped out of the doorway. I walked backward until I hit the wall. My heart hammered so loud it almost drowned out the footsteps outside. Then the first person entered. Then the second. Then the rest of the congregation, sliding silently inside. Their mouths moved without sound. My name. Over and over. The candle flared in the center of the room even though no one lit it. The mispronounced version of my name threaded through the air from every direction, circling me the way hands circle warm water, pulling the heat inward. I bolted. I didn't look behind me. I didn't need to. Every window in town had shifted. Every street sign. Every handwritten chalkboard menu at the diner. All of them had my name on them. Not the right one, but the wrong one. The broken one. The one the church wanted. By the time I reached my grandmother's house, the radio was on. She never used the radio. It crackled, then settled on a single phrase repeated in a voice that wasn't familiar. Warden's Pass welcomes, wrong name. My throat closed. The house felt too small, too warm, like something inside it had been living under my skin for weeks. I backed into the hallway mirror, and when I turned to face it, Owen was standing behind me. Not older, Not changed. Just smiling, the way he used to when he thought he knew more than I did. I ran that night. Left everything. Didn't look back. And even now, years later, when I check into a hotel or order a pizza or wait for a boarding pass, sometimes the receipt prints with the wrong version of my name. The mispronounced one. The one I heard through broken teeth. I answer to a different name now, but I still hear the old one whispered. And every time I flinch, I know I haven't fully left. Before we step into the next story, if you're still here, still listening, with the lights low, maybe drop a comment. Just tell me where you're listening from. It helps more than you know. All right, let's keep going. I've told everyone it was a simple accident. Got turned around. Trail confusion. Happens all the time, especially out near Cold Run. But I saw the clock. I saw the trail change. It was late October when Jared and I decided to do Burnt Ridge. I was 33 then. Jared had just turned 35 and swore he was getting too old to hike anything steep without coffee and ibuprofen. We'd done dozens of trails around the Monongahela. This one wasn't supposed to be any different. Burnt Ridge was mostly used by hunters, and maybe the occasional local looking for more solitude than scenery. The weird thing was, the trailhead had no sign, just a gap in the brush and an old post with nothing on it. Jared told me it was a loop. Couple hours up, same path down, he said. We brought sandwiches, 2 canteens, a printed map Jared trusted more than GPS, and the usual stuff, flashlight, compass, 2 backup batteries. No cell service out there anyway. It was cold enough to need gloves, but not cold enough for snow. Quiet. No wind. About 2 miles in, we passed a tree with a white X painted on the bark. Looked fresh. Just one clean cross in the middle of a wide trunk. We didn't think much of it. I even joked. Guess someone marked the way out for themselves. We kept climbing. The trail narrowed but stayed steady. Good footing. No switchbacks. Jared talked the whole time. About his boss. His new truck. How much he missed simpler jobs. He didn't like sitting still. Never had. Maybe 20 minutes later, I saw the white X again. Same shape. Same angle. Same tree. Or one just like it. But it was facing the wrong direction now. I thought it was funny. Maybe the tree split. Maybe we looped wrong. But Jared went pale. Said he saw that X 3 times. Then we argued. Not loudly, but in that clipped, tired way you do when something small suddenly feels important. Jared kept checking his watch. Said it had been at least 3 hours. I said the sun was still overhead. I checked mine. It read 11:12. He showed me his 3:41. We had synced them that morning. The compass started acting up next. Needle spinning slow and shaky. Then freezing in the wrong direction. We tried cutting back down to the main trail by following a steep gully. Jared said it was faster. But halfway down, we ended up at the same patch of mossy rock we'd passed before. We stopped near a formation shaped like a half circle, like a broken bowl half buried in the hillside. That definitely hadn't been there on the way up. My legs were shaking. Jared was sweating through his jacket. We sat, drank water, tried to find ourselves on the map, but nothing matched. The batteries in our flashlight and backup charger were both low. Somehow, I checked my phone even though I knew better. No signal. Just the spinning circle and the wrong time blinking. Jared stood up and walked a slow circle around the clearing. Then he crouched and pointed. A boot print. Old. Pressed into dry mud near the edge of the rocks. It matched Jared's tread. But the edges were cracked. Curled like it had been there for days. That's when I saw the white X again. Ahead of us now. Up the hill. Jared started breathing fast. That's it, he said. That's not supposed to be here. He was whispering, like someone might hear. Then we heard it. A car. Distant, muffled, but real. The whirring tires on road sound that cuts through mountain air. When the wind carries it right, Jared took off running toward it, yelling my name. I followed. I pushed myself over the ridge where he disappeared. scraped my knee on a rock, felt blood wet my sock. The sound was gone. And Jared was gone too. I came out onto a trailhead I didn't recognize. It had a sign now. Old, faded, covered in vines, but still visible. The words chipped into the wood read, Burnt Ridge Trail, closed since 1998. I turned around to call for Jared, but the ridge behind me was empty. Just trees, just silence. I shouted Jared's name until my throat ached. Nothing answered but wind pushing through the trees like water through tight rock. I stood at the ridge for what felt like an hour, turning in circles, trying to make the world reattach itself. Then I started down the new trail. The slope was different, more even, more worn. I recognized none of it. I didn't know where I was heading, only that I had to keep going. The air smelled wrong, damp and metallic, like rain that hadn't fallen yet. I found the ranger station around dusk. It looked like no one had opened the door in years. The windows were caked with grime. One side of the roof sagged under a fallen branch. I walked around back and found the door unlocked. Inside, everything was soaked. The floor creaked with every step. I found maps curled in plastic bins, most unreadable. One notebook lay on the desk, its pages stuck together with time. But one entry stood out, a name I didn't recognize, written in block letters. Burnt Ridge resets after drift. Watch for the white X. The date was 23 years ago. I tore a corner from a dry page and wrote a note to myself anyway. 2 hikers. Oct 27th. 1 missing. I didn't sleep much. Lay on a bench in the corner. Jacket wrapped around me. Every sound outside pulling me halfway upright. At some point, I must have dozed off. When I woke, the sky outside the window was still black. I checked my watch. 7:14 a.m. Still dark. I waited another hour. Walked up the path a few feet and back. No change. My hands started shaking. I walked for hours and still the sky stayed dim, like it hadn't remembered how to turn over. At noon, the light began to shift. Not sunrise, just a slow return of gray. The trees looked brittle, almost artificial in the half-light. Then I saw the white X again. Not fresh this time. Faded, scarred, but still visible. And now it had a slash through it, like someone tried to cross it out. I didn't stop, didn't breathe too hard, just kept walking, hands close to my sides, eyes forward. The trail finally began to descend. By late afternoon, I reached town. At first glance, Cold Run looked the same. Same houses, same bends in the road, same general store on the corner. But something in the way it sat felt different, like furniture you thought was untouched but had been nudged half an inch. A new billboard stood near the entrance. Same metal frame, but the slogan was different now. Something about tourism and trout. The gas station had a new name. Not the family name I remembered. I walked straight to my aunt's house. Knocked 3 times. The man who opened the door looked about 40, with paint on his hands and confusion in his eyes. "You looking for someone?" he asked. This was my aunt's place. I said, "Nancy Harper." He blinked. "We bought this last year." I didn't answer. Just stood there long enough for it to get awkward. At the library, I pulled old papers from the archive room, hands shaking as I flipped. I found the report on page 6. Hiker returns 8 days after missing. Claims 24 hours lost. Search discontinued after 3rd night. The date was next Thursday. My name was in the headline. Jared's wasn't. I never hiked again. I bought a GPS watch. I keep it charged. I test it weekly. I learned what it looks like when the signal slips. It's subtle, a little pause, a spin of the compass needle, a brief flicker in the screen like it forgot what direction meant. Once, 2 years later, I was driving through a different county and passed a trail entrance I didn't recognize. It had no name, no parking lot, just a wooden gate and a narrow path, and a white X, low on the first tree. I didn't stop. I didn't turn. And this time, I didn't wait to see which way it was facing. My name's Aiden March. I'm 30, and I renovate houses no one else wants. The worse the smell, the better the deal. That's how I ended up with Unit 6. It sat at the edge of a row in Matwan, West Virginia. 8 attached houses, all built in the 30s for coal families, back when company towns still meant something. 7 were vacant, some boarded, some just forgotten. But Unit 6 was the only one marked condemned. I bought it outright. No loans, no partners. The roof sagged, the pipes were dry, and the wallpaper had peeled off in sheets like sunburned skin. Perfect, I thought. The first night I slept there, I felt it, a vibration, faint, but real. In the floorboards beneath my cot, I checked my phone. 1:42 a.m. It stopped at 1:47, 5 minutes. I timed it the next night. Same thing. And again the night after. I asked a man at the diner about it. Old guy. Overalls stained from work, he probably still did, even at his age. He put his fork down and said, "That one, we don't touch it. Too low in the foundation." Didn't say more than that. Didn't need to. It was the way he said low. Like the word didn't stop where it should. I kept working. Floors were the first thing to go. Rot, mildew, crumbled joists. I started pulling boards in the back room, the one with the strange dip near the center. As I worked, I noticed a pattern in the subfloor. Nail holes, perfect circle, but no nails. No bracket, no support ring, just holes, clean and evenly spaced, right where your feet might land if you stood still too long. You ever uncover something you didn't plan to fix? That wasn't in your quote, wasn't even supposed to be there. The dip got worse the more I cleared. Not visible from the outside. But when I measured the room corner to corner, the center was lower by almost 2 inches. It didn't make sense, unless there was more space below than the blueprint showed. The listing had said crawl space, no access, but I found a seam, about 3 feet from the back wall, too straight to be water damage. I followed it until I realized I was looking at a hatch, painted over, sealed with a thin layer of tile. Someone hadn't just ignored it, they had erased it. I chipped around the edge, pried it loose. The door lifted with a long breath of air, dry and still. Below it, a staircase dropped into blackness. Too steep, no railing, the kind of angle that made your knees ache just from looking. I didn't go down, just held my phone over the edge and hit record. The video cut out at 9 seconds. Battery dropped from 73 to 31. Screen went hot. I locked the hatch. Next morning, it was open again. I hadn't just closed it. I had braced it with a wood beam and a cast iron clamp. But there it was, cleanly lifted, no sign of force. Dirt prints tracked across the kitchen tile, small, dry, coming from inside. I tried to convince myself I had knocked it loose, that maybe a raccoon or something larger had crawled through. I left the lights on that night and didn't sleep. Later that week, I retrieved the phone data with recovery software. Only one file remained. 9 seconds of footage. A hallway under the house. Dirt walls. Wooden struts warped with age. And something standing still, pressed into the far corner. No movement. No sound. Just the shape of a person, or something trying to be one. I boarded the hatch, drilled it shut, packed my things and moved out for a few days. But the neighbors called, said the lights in Unit 6 were on every night, said they heard footsteps on the floorboards. I came back, walked every room. The boards I had installed were untouched, but the back closet had changed. It had a second door now. Same handle, same wood grain, same angle on the trim. But I had built that wall myself, and there was no second door last week. I stood in the doorway and stared at it for a long time. I didn't open it, not yet. The next morning, I brought my drill. I wasn't waiting anymore. The second door felt too right, like it had always been there, and I was just catching up to the idea. I drilled through the seam where the door met the frame, Behind it wasn't drywall. It was brick. I chipped away at it for hours, slow and steady, until the last chunk fell inward and left a clean opening. Behind the wall was another stairwell. It looked older than the rest of the house, built from heavy wood soaked black with moisture. No railing. The same angle as the first one I had found, but longer, narrower. I stepped down 3 steps. That's all. There was no echo, just the sound of my own breath. Then I heard something else, breathing that was not mine. Close. No rasp, no wheeze, just rhythm, like it had been waiting for the air to change. I turned and climbed out fast. Didn't shut the door behind me. Didn't even finish gathering tools. I drove straight to the county office. Their building was half empty, lights flickering from age and budget. I gave them the address, asked if there was ever a basement plan or sublevel for Unit 6. The clerk looked confused. That row only has crawlspace permits. No basements allowed. Sits on floodline. I thanked her and left before she could ask more questions. I got out of town for a month. Stayed with a cousin in Ohio. Picked up odd jobs. Didn't mention the house once. I thought maybe distance would help. That whatever I found, or imagined, was tied to that place and would stay behind. When I came back, the house looked normal. Boarded door still sealed. Lights off. No signs of movement. I walked through it one last time. Nothing had shifted. Nothing had followed. I almost believed it. Then I opened the kitchen drawer. There was a key inside. Metal tag attached. B2. Stamped in block letters. There was no basement. No Unit B. That key wasn't mine. That night, I didn't stay in the house. Rented a room at the roadside motel 10 minutes out. Around 2 in the morning, I woke to a noise under the floor. It was a dragging sound, followed by something slow, deliberate. I checked under the bed. Nothing. Checked the closet. It shouldn't have been there, but it was. The trapdoor from Unit 6. Same wood. Same rusted hinge. Sitting impossibly at the base of the closet. I opened it. The air was warm and dry. The smell hit first. Earth and metal. Like a locked cellar that had learned to breathe. There was a hallway inside. Long, narrow. Doors lining either side. All closed. One of them had a brass plate on it. Unit 6. I stepped back. My body wanted to move but didn't know which way. Then I heard it. The sound of nails. Being pulled out, one by one. From wood. Steady. Patient. I shut the closet door. Packed what little I had and left the motel before the sun rose. I never flipped another house. Took a job cleaning hotels. Doesn't pay much. But I sleep better. Most nights. I still carry the B2 key. I don't unlock it. Don't ask what it fits. But sometimes, in unfamiliar rooms, I hear that sound again. Nails lifting. Wood creaking under weight that should not move. And I don't look for trapdoors anymore. Some houses don't want to be raised. They want to be left buried. I didn't believe my grandma. I told her voices in dreams were just echoes of old memories. But now I sleep with the TV on, so nothing else gets in. I moved back home to Olden Ridge after things fell apart. Thought I needed time, distance, maybe a little peace. Grandma had always slept with her eyes open just slightly. Not wide, not glaring. Just enough that someone walking into the room felt watched, even when the house was dark and still. She used to tell me that meant she was on guard. She always said, if something calls your name when you are not awake, don't answer. No matter who you think it is. I laughed then. I thought I was young enough to not believe in ghost stories. The first night, I turned on the TV to distract myself. Static flickered across the screen. I fell asleep watching it, half expecting the glow to feel warm on my face. Instead, I dreamt. I heard someone call my name gently, in my own voice. Soft, familiar, like I had whispered it. I answered, yeah, without thinking. I woke up with the phone lying face down on the floor. The screen was cracked. My heart pounded. In the dim morning light, I saw the recording app open, but there was no file saved. Nothing. Just silence. I tried to tell myself it was a weird dream. Stress from moving. Maybe I drank too much coffee that day. But every night after, the call came again. Not always my name. Sometimes there were footsteps pacing in the hallway, or the front door creaking open. I would wake, sweating, heart racing, and the TV would be on, the volume just low enough I couldn't make out what it was playing. I downloaded a sleep recorder app. Figured maybe I could catch something real this time. Something that proved I wasn't losing it. One night, the mic picked up a voice. It was me, or something that sounded like me. Low, calm, but wrong. It whispered, I already let her in. I woke cold, covered in goosebump skin, the pitch of my own voice hanging in the air like a warning I didn't recognize. The next morning, I found both bedroom windows wide open. I checked the locks the night before. They were intact. I remembered locking them. I stood there trembling, feeling the stale air slip past me, like I had been dreaming while drowning in open air. Grandma kept repeating the same warning. When I told her, she just sighed, shook her head, said nothing more. I didn't ask again, not aloud, because I had broken the rule, and maybe I already knew what that meant. When Grandma fell ill, they took her to the hospital overnight. I sat in the living room alone, the house quiet except for the humming heater. That night, I heard the voice again, soft. She was calling me, in Grandma's tone, calm, familiar, enticing. It said, it's all right now. Baby, come open the door. I crept toward the front door, hand trembling on the knob. I nearly turned it, but just before I could, the bathroom light flicked on by itself behind me. I froze. I didn't move. I don't know how long I stood there. The next day, I took salt from the pantry and poured a thin line across each windowsill. I hung bells on the doorknobs, like Grandma used to, though she never said why. I didn't know if it was superstition or defense, but I did it anyway. That night, I slept on the couch with my shoes on and a flashlight in hand, afraid of what might come if I let myself drift too deep. The voice changed. It began saying things no one else could have known. Details from my past I never told a soul. It used different tones now. Sometimes my childhood voice, sometimes my mother's. But it always ended the same way, whispering my name like it had always been watching, always waiting for me to answer again. While cleaning under the bed, I found an old cassette tape tucked between the floorboards. A strip of masking tape across the front had been labeled in Grandma's careful handwriting. For when they lie like me, I stared at it for a long time, then dug around until I found an old Walkman in one of the basement bins. When I pressed play, I heard her voice, slow and dry but steady. She said, "You'll hear me before it's me. Don't answer until I blink." That night, I dreamt of her. She was sitting on the edge of the bed like she used to when I was little. Her eyes were open but dull, not quite focused. She said my name, then blinked once. Just once. I answered back. And for the first time in weeks, I felt safe. I woke rested. The sun had already climbed over the trees. I made coffee without fear, breathed deep in the silence. I thought maybe the tape had done something. Maybe knowing the rule meant I could finally control it. That night, I even turned the TV off before bed. But at 3:12 a.m., I woke to a sound I had never heard before. Heavy breathing that didn't match mine. Slow, deep, rhythmic. I sat up and looked toward the screen. The TV was on, but black, no image, just sound. And through the speaker, my name played on a loop, distorted, stretched like melting tape. I turned, and there I was, lying on the couch, eyes open, watching me. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The me on the couch turned its head, eyes dry, unmoving. Then it said, without blinking, "Told you not to answer." Every light in the house went dark. I moved out 3 days later. Got a roommate in the city. Someone always nearby. I sleep in noise now. Buses. Sirens. Neighbors yelling through thin walls. But in dreams, the hallway always returns. A long, quiet stretch of nothing but doors. One of them always calls to me. Grandma passed a year after the hospital stay. They said she stopped speaking toward the end. But I saw her in the casket. Just a glance. Her eyes were still a little open. My name's Mason Coyle. I'm 41 and I've worked logistics for nearly 2 decades. Mostly warehouse to warehouse stuff. Short routes. Nothing fancy. I'm the kind of guy who logs his mileage twice and keeps 2 pens in his shirt pocket. That's why I noticed the error. It started on a Wednesday. There was a delivery logged under my region, marked as complete at Bridgepoint Crossing. Only problem was, Bridgepoint hadn't existed since 2001. The bridge had collapsed from rust damage, condemned and closed off. I asked my boss about it, showed him the manifest. He shrugged and said it was probably a data rollover from the old system. No one's routed that way. Trust the logs, not the ghosts, he joked. But I printed the paperwork anyway. Thing was, the timestamps were perfect. Every entry came in at exactly 4:22 p.m. Not a second early, not a second late. And not just once. 5 weeks in a row. Different drivers. Same slot. No complaints. No delays. No fuel variance. So I followed one. Not out of suspicion. Really, more like curiosity sharpened by boredom. I waited near the depot lot. Saw the white box truck pull out. And got in behind. It took side roads I'd never used, thin paved strips through the woods. Barely enough clearance for 2 cars. A low fog settled just past the second turn. The kind that sticks close to the ground and moves like something alive. The signs got older. Paint faded. Trees thickened. Then the truck turned down a gravel split I didn't even know existed. A rusted placard leaned sideways. Bridgepoint. No through traffic. I stayed far enough behind to keep out of the mirrors. Then I saw it. The bridge. It arched in a tired curve over a dried creek bed. Steel beams eaten through in places. The roadbed patched with old timber slats. 2 large signs flanked either side, "Do not enter" and "Structurally unsafe." But the truck didn't slow. It crossed like it was any other road. And I followed. I didn't even think. My tires thudded on warped wood. The weight shift made the wheel tremble. Halfway across, I saw the support beams under me, thin as ribs. Some cracked straight through. But I kept going. The other side opened into a clearing. Nothing fancy, just a gravel lot. A few overgrown tire tracks. A lone structure, like a rusted silo missing its top. No lights. No workers. Just fog thickening near the tree line. The truck was gone. I drove the loop twice. No exits. No fresh tire prints. I got out. Walked the perimeter. Felt the air go cold like the sun was backing away. That's when I saw it. A delivery receipt lying on the gravel. Folded once. I picked it up. Same routing number. Same order code. But the signature at the bottom was mine. My name. My scrawl. Even the way I crossed the O in Coyle, though I hadn't signed anything that day. I stood there, holding it, hearing nothing but my own breathing. Then I turned back toward the bridge, and it was gone. Or maybe not gone. Just wrong. There was no road. Just brush and slope. No tracks. No beams. Nothing. I stepped forward and scanned the edge. Where the wood had been, there was just moss-covered ground. I took out my phone. No signal. Not even emergency bars. The compass spun like it was confused. I went back to the lot, thinking maybe I missed something. And that's when I heard it. Tires crunching gravel. A van pulled into view. Same make and color as ours at the depot. I stepped forward, waving. It kept coming. Then I froze. The driver. I could see him now. Same jacket. Same haircut. Same profile. It was me. But the eyes didn't meet mine. The van rolled past, never stopping, and disappeared around the tree line. And I just stood there. I started searching the site properly after that. I walked the length of the clearing, checked behind the silo, even pushed through some of the trees. Behind a stack of weather-worn pallets, I found an old crate wedged open. Inside were delivery slips, all from my company, all with different dates, all signed by me. Some were yellowed at the edges. Some looked brand new. I pulled out one at random and stared at the timestamp. Same minute, same second, 4:22 p.m. It didn't matter if the date was 6 months back or last week. They all ended the same way. The silo had a rusted hatch on the side, like it used to store grain or fuel. It took a few tries, but I got it open. Inside, there were tire treads in the dirt, food wrappers, and an old jacket hanging from a nail. I knew that jacket. I had one just like it, but the brand stopped making that color last year. A truck horn echoed somewhere off in the trees, low and long. I turned, but nothing came. The sound kept going, then cut out mid-note. I waited. 5 minutes. Then 10. No truck ever appeared. The fog thickened as the sun dropped. I heard something crackle nearby, faint and rhythmic, like a radio. I followed it. It came from the woods, maybe 50 yards off. Through the mist, I saw flashing light and cones. The bridge was back, but not how I'd seen it before. It looked new, not pristine, but freshly worked. Paint still white, railings intact, even caution tape fluttering at the sides. My boots crunched on fresh gravel as I stepped forward. This time, I crossed without thinking. Back at the depot, the parking lot was full. I walked inside, lightheaded. No one reacted strange. But my coworker Ted looked up and said, "You've been out twice today. GPS still giving you trouble." I blinked. Twice. He pointed at the screen. "You clocked out on the test route already. Route B. You heading back out again or just checking gear?" I nodded slowly, not really answering. I drove home in silence. Later that night, I found a stack of delivery slips on my desk, all to Bridgepoint Crossing, all dated today. I checked my wallet. My ID badge had a different employee number. I opened the dashcam archive on my laptop. Footage showed a driver, someone else. Same jacket, same hands. Then, at frame 1722, the video skipped. When it came back, it was me. All the files stopped at the same mark. Route complete. 4:22 p.m. Every file. Every day, I put in for reassignment the following Monday. No more Western routes. No more test trails. I keep a journal now. I write down everything I sign. Time, date, location, ink color. Some days I find receipts in my locker I don't remember filling. They're always accurate. My name spelled right. Same crossed O. But the handwriting, it's just a little off. And the timestamp, always 4:22. That one hit a little different. If these stories mean something to you, leave a like, subscribe, or share this video with someone who'd stay up to hear it too. And if you've got a true horror story of your own, my email's in the description. Now, story 6. I didn't even like the town. I was just drifting through southern West Virginia after quitting a dead-end job, trying to put distance between me and that life. Graverick showed up on the map as a dot between two fading highways. I stopped for gas there. That's all. But night came faster than I expected, and the station closed early in that small town. I drove a little more and saw a pawn shop still open under a flickering bulb. It had a dusty window and a barely swinging door, like someone forgot to close it properly. Inside, it smelled of old leather, metal, and stale cigarettes. I wandered over to a dim corner where cassette tapes were piled loose in a plastic bin. One caught my eye. Simple handwriting on the label said, "Play when station is empty." I held it up, showed it to the owner. He glanced around the cramped shelves, dropped his voice low and said, "Only works here. Don't bother trying it anywhere else." I handed him 50 cents. He slid the tape over without touching it. No other words. No receipt. I walked back to my car and stuffed the cassette in the glove compartment under an old map and a half-empty energy drink. I tried playing it on the dash deck as the engine idled. Static at first, then just wind noise. And after 30 seconds, the tape popped out on its own, flipped, and began rewinding. I sat there until the needle snapped back to the start. The radio hissed white noise. I shut it off, stared at the tape in my hand. Something didn't feel right, but I told myself I was tired. Later that evening, I walked past the old radio station building in town. It had peeling paint, boarded-up windows, a cracked glass door that barely hung on its hinges. I didn't expect much, maybe a scrap of history left behind. I kept walking, but in the back of my head something niggled, a thought that pushed me somewhere between curiosity and regret. Back at the cheap motel I stopped in, I sat on the bed and pulled the tape out under the yellow bulb. The label had changed. No longer the original words, now scrawled in what looked like red pen: 0, arrival; 37, listening; 713, involvement. My pulse thumped when I saw those numbers. It looked staged, like instructions, like a dare. I shoved the tape in my jacket pocket and drifted off to an uneasy sleep. In the midnight fog of my dream, I heard the tape click playing somewhere far away. I woke up soaked in sweat, the room quiet but thick. I grabbed my jacket from the foot of the bed and left. I didn't try to rationalize it. I just drove back to that old radio station building. Moonlight slanted through broken panes and dust swirled in the air. I picked the side door lock with the tip of a screwdriver I always carried. It turned easily. I slipped inside. Everything was frozen in dust and silence, except for the broadcast booth. Lights were dim but alive. The mic stood ready. The reel-to-reel deck gleamed under a single bulb. The headphones rested on the console. It looked like someone had just stepped away. I slid onto the stool, hands shaking slightly, and pressed play. The tape started smooth. Crackle faded. Then a voice, familiar but not familiar at all. It was my voice. Calm, steady, saying, "There's someone in the building. Don't stop the tape." My skin crawled. I didn't recognize what I was hearing. The tone was flat, empty, and wrong. I tried to hit stop. The button didn't move. It was frozen, locked. Then distortion filled the room. Harmonics overlapped with the original voice. Other voices layered beneath. Whispers, breaths, subtle moans like air drawn through metal grates. Through the thin glass window of the booth, I saw movement. A figure stood in the control room, back to me. Dress coat looked familiar. Then the figure turned slowly. My coat. Same cut, same wear. I froze as it turned toward me, and the tape kept playing. I didn't move. The figure's face stayed in shadow. The reels spun, casting pale light on the dust swirling between us. I could feel every vibration in the floor. My heart thundered. The whispers got louder. I reached out to stop the deck. The hands didn't respond. I was trapped by sound, by tape, by that shape that looked like me but wasn't. I bolted out of the booth. I didn't look back. The emptiness of the station chased me down the cracked steps. Outside, the night air hit sharp against my skin. I drove away without checking the rearview mirror. I left the cassette on the passenger seat. Then I drove until the roads merged, then split, then disappeared into highway haze. I didn't stop until the tape slipped off the seat and fluttered to the floorboards. I didn't pick it up, but sometimes, when I'm driving down a long, empty road, I remember the hum of the reel-to-reel, the shape behind glass, the voice that sounded like me but carried a warning I never expected. And I remember that I stayed those extra hours in Graverick. I shouldn't have looked through that bin. I did not make it far before the lights on my dashboard flickered, one by one. The radio cut in without permission. Just a soft hiss, like someone breathing against the speaker. I turned the volume down. It rose on its own, I pulled over at the edge of town, a heart in my throat, and stepped out into a silence that felt thick enough to lean on. The whole place was dark. Not quiet dark. Empty dark. Every house looked unlit. Every street hollowed out, as if someone had turned the whole town off at a switch. I walked back to the pawn shop hoping the owner might still be inside. But when I reached it, the windows were boarded shut and covered in dust. It looked like no one had been there in years. I should have left. I knew that. But the highway spat me out twice. I took the westbound ramp and ended up back at the same gas station. Took the eastbound turn and circled straight into Graverick's center like the road curled inward. The sky felt closer than it should have. Like everything above me was leaning in. The motel sign was still buzzing faintly. So I checked in again, telling myself it was only until sunrise. Inside the room, I dropped my jacket on the chair. Something inside thumped as it hit the cushion. I reached into the pocket and pulled the cassette out. The label had changed again. It now read, 713, involvement, 1259, replacement. My fingers went cold. I felt the urge to throw it out the window, but a heavier feeling made me stop. It was like I was already partly in the story the tape wanted to tell, and breaking it might make it worse. I stuffed it into the motel drawer and lay on the bed fully dressed. The room was silent for a few minutes. Then the radio on the nightstand clicked on by itself. Not with music or static this time. My own voice came through. Not the tired voice I knew. The calm one from the booth, saying, "He will not answer. I have to finish the shift." I sat up. I could hear something else behind the words. A faint whirring. The sound of reels spinning. I looked toward the wall across from the bed. There was a built-in panel I had not noticed before. When I got closer, I realized it was a cassette deck embedded directly into the wall. The slot was empty, but the play light was on. The tape was no longer in the drawer. I felt for it instinctively. My pocket was heavy. I did not remember putting it there. I slid it out and just stared at the faded label. The numbers that now felt like a countdown. I did not want to play it, but I also knew it was going to play either way. At 3:03 a.m., the motel lights flickered. For a second, the room went completely black. When they came back, the cassette deck in the wall had closed its slot. The reels turned, though nothing was inside. And, through the tiny speaker, I heard myself breathing. I stepped back until my shoulder hit the door. I do not remember opening it. Only the cold air outside hitting my face. Across the street, the radio station building glowed faintly from the inside. Too bright, too clean, like it had never closed. I walked toward it, not out of bravery. More like the pull of a tide you cannot fight once your feet leave the sand. Through the front window, I saw someone sitting in the booth, someone wearing my coat, someone watching the spinning reels. I pressed my hands to the glass. The version of me inside smiled. Calm, patient, like he had been waiting for me to arrive. The speakers inside cut off at exactly 12:59, and then I understood. I tried the door. It would not budge. I tried the window again. My reflection stared back at me from the glass. Only when I leaned closer, I saw the reflection did not move with me. Inside, the other me lifted a hand and reached for the mic. If you drive near Graverick between 12:50 and 1:10 in the morning and tune to FM 87.5, you might hear a man whispering his own location. Sometimes he sounds close, sometimes far, but always in the same even tone. I think I am on the other side now. He says, "If you are hearing this, do not rewind it. The pawn shop is still listed in the phone book, but the address is an empty parking lot, and the radio tower beside it has not broadcast anything in years." I didn't file a report. Neither did anyone else. I think we all knew she wasn't coming back from that field. My name is Jack. I had returned to my hometown Dry Hollow, West Virginia, after I lost my job. I moved in with my older sister, Ellie. She'd been different since her accident 2 years before. Not broken, not ill, just quiet. Every evening at dusk, she sat at the edge of our backyard, on the same old lawn chair, staring into the woods. Sometimes she murmured, Not words, just a soft rhythm, a low hum carried on the wind. Neighbors saw her. They waved. No one asked why she was out there. One night, I found something buried just beneath her chair leg. It was a dog tag, rusted metal, stamped with a name from childhood. She hadn't had a dog in 12 years. I picked it up, cold in my palm. For a second, I thought she might remember. She didn't. I tucked it in my pocket. I asked Ellie what she was watching for. She shrugged. She said nothing much, just that the woods moved when she blinked. They shift when I look away, she said quietly. I laughed it off. Told her I didn't believe in that kind of nonsense. But I watched her anyway. Watched how every evening she drifted toward that same spot. Like a ritual she couldn't skip. Every day she left earlier. She paused less when I called her for dinner. One night I woke, and she was gone from the porch. I found her deep in the woods, standing perfectly still, her eyes open, unblinking. When I called her name, she didn't respond. When I touched her shoulder, she jolted but didn't speak. She didn't remember walking out there. After that, I started watching the woods too. Shadows moved in patterns that repeated night after night. Leaves rustled, though there was no wind. Branches bent, even when the air was still. Old shapes among the trees shifting just outside the corner of your vision. I began to think maybe Ellie wasn't seeing things alone. The dog tag didn't stay put. Every day I found it somewhere different. Once on the kitchen counter, another time on the floor by the door. Once I saw it on the porch step when I came home, though I'd left the chair vacant that evening. It was always there before she arrived. Always waiting. I set up my phone to record a night. Camera on, motion detection on, just to catch something if she wandered again. I sat outside for hours, listening. The woods stayed quiet. No rustle, no steps, no voices, just the snap of old twigs settling. Morning came, and I checked the footage. The file hung there, recorded over and over on loop. Every frame blank. I didn't press the matter. I didn't call anyone. There were no broken windows, no signs of struggle, no blood, just an old lawn chair on the porch, the dog tag flickering dull metal in the first light of dawn, and a house that felt too empty. The night she disappeared, I tried to find her in the woods until my legs gave out. I shouted her name until dry leaves shredded my throat. I followed animal trails, hollows, abandoned root cellars. But nothing. No footprints. No calls. No body. The only thing left was the chair and the tag lying right where she'd been sitting. I picked it up in my hand as sunlight crept through the pines. Cold. Heavy. I didn't know whether she left, or whether someone took her. I didn't know if she ever existed that way again. I couldn't sleep. I moved the chair inside. I wrapped the tag in a cloth and locked it in a drawer. I kept the curtains drawn. I tried to act like the world outside still worked the same. But it didn't. Sometimes late at night, I swore I heard breathing coming from the woods. Not wind. Not animals. Someone watching. I would sit up and stare at the window until dawn came. Then the world felt empty again. But I could never shake the feeling that something, or someone, was waiting just beyond the tree line. I started searching every day, not just the woods, but the town records, old maps, even newspaper clippings at the library. No mention of Ellie. No photo. No accident report. Not even her birth announcement. It was like she'd slipped out of more than just the woods. Like the town let her dissolve. The neighbors never asked how she was doing. Not once. It was as if her chair had always been empty. One afternoon, I asked Mrs. Greeley next door if she remembered Ellie's dog. She blinked, looked at the ground, and said, "That girl never fit right here." Then she walked back inside. A week after Ellie vanished, I found a path I hadn't noticed before. Narrow, low brush, twisted branches like fingers. I followed it to an old root cellar sunken behind the tree line. Inside it was cold, dry, to hollow as a forgotten well. But scratched into the stone wall were 3 tally marks, and one long curved slash. I started sitting in the chair every evening, just like she had, Same spot. Same hour. At first, it felt wrong. Then it started to feel expected. One evening, Mr. Avery from down the lane brought over a bowl of soup. He stood at the edge of the porch and said, "You holding up okay?" I nodded. Didn't speak. He glanced at the chair, then back at me. "We've all had someone sit there," he said. "Most of us stop asking why." I didn't sleep anymore. Not really. I just waited for night. I kept Ellie's dog tag in my pocket. I never locked the door. I couldn't say if I was hoping she'd come back, or if I was waiting to be taken too. One night I woke up outside. No blanket, no memory of walking there, just the chair beneath me and the tag in my hand. But it was warm. The woods were still. No wind, no animals. Then something shifted behind the trees. Not visibly. Not something I could point to. Just a pressure in the air, like space itself had inhaled. I whispered her name, Ellie, and something whispered back. Her voice, her exact tone, "I've been here." The sound died instantly. No rustling leaves. No breath. Even my own heartbeat felt like it stopped just to listen. I sat there until sunrise. When I stood, the chair felt lighter. The tag had cooled. That was weeks ago. I stopped searching. There's nothing left to find. But some evenings, if you stand quiet near the edge of the field, you might hear two people breathing. Never at the same time. I still don't know if she went somewhere, or if this place just took something out of both of us. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. I truly mean that. If you enjoyed these stories, leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. That way, you won't miss the next ones. And once again, thank you for walking this dark road with me tonight.